Hello, everybody. I hope that everybody is having a wonderful day. I know that I am, and it is time for me to start sharing some of my stories. That is a part of why I am on this platform. This is why I created this channel, so that people who are experiencing a various of things that I have gone through within the last 5 to 8 years, I would be able to share how God is still making me new again. I gave him a chance to do that. He's been with me all the while, even when I was in the darkness, even when I was in the wilderness. But grief had consumed me, depression had consumed me. I was ill myself, so I had a lot of things that was going on. And if anything, those that people that was up and close with me, up and personal, were involved in my life, my circle, they were there. They know the things that I've gone through. But God told me that He wanted me to tell others. And so that means outside of my circle. And I'll be able to help someone else. So this is all for God's glory. And that is why I'm here today. So I'm going to start to talk about the beginning of trauma. All grief is not based on a death. I will tell you that. I have met so many different people who was experiencing grief in one form or another, because grief, there are steps that come along with grieving. There is no certain time for one to go through grief. There are different times. Some people go through faster than others, some go through later than others, some never fully get through. So I do know that you can experience grief from death. I have talked to some people that experienced it from when they thought they was in a healthy marriage and was all of a sudden told, I don't want to be married anymore. And it affected them, but they was grieving that, because after all, it's still a type of loss, but it's not like a final loss, like separated from the earth, like one where God has stepped in and there is no return. So, but grieving through a divorce, I have spoke to somebody that told me they grieved a job. They was up for a promotion. They got the promotion, thought everything was fine in that area as well. The job went away, and they just couldn't believe it. It was like having their dream job, and it's like I spent all these years to get there, and look what happened to me. Sometimes when we see people in the world that's in different places and we may not understand or want to take the time to understand why people in the world are places that they're at. Every person you see that's on the street is not there because they just I'm going to say don't want to do anything, or they have no goals and things like that. I have actually taken some time to talk to a couple of people to find out, is there anything, any help, anything that I can do to possibly help you, or why do you mind sharing with me? I'm doing a survey because I have something I need to do. Do you mind sharing with me while you're here? And I have been told no. And I also have been told they didn't mind sharing. One person that sticks out to me, and I'm only going to use one example, told me that they had a great life, they had everything was going good for themselves, and then they fell by the wayside to financial ruins with, and also I forgot that part. He told me about infidelity inside of his home. He tried to repair it, tried to restore it, tried to move forward, but because of repeated things inside of the home, he was not able to get past it. And also through counseling, it did not get the outcome that he expected. So therefore, they lost their home. The family was divided. He just said, you know what, I can't deal. I just checked out. He started off going to a shelter. He told me that when you go to the shelter, that you only can check in at a certain time and you have to be out at a certain time. And after a while, he just kind of got used to doing that, just kind of like just getting away from everything. And it just turned out to be something that he just never really just said, hey, you know what? I just think that I can be able to get out of this and be able to try to claim life back. And so therefore it brought on a lot of other mental illnesses, and the mental illnesses is what have him there right now. The mental illnesses became like a prison, because he wasn't able to escape so many things that came down on him, and he wasn't able to just really just let it go. Do I understand that? Of course I do understand that. Yet again, so I can be able to tell this story accurately, I will just back up just briefly to give you just a history. I am a widow. I have been widowed for 5 years. Andre was my husband. We met at the age of 16. We went to two different high schools, so we wasn't dating then, we was just met each other, but it was just something that I just had lingering in the air, because someone in my homeroom used to play basketball with Andre at Peyton Forest Park here in Atlanta, Georgia, and every day or every weekend, this guy would bring me a message back from Andre. So by the time we made it to the 12th grade, we had a lot of house parties that was going on. And one of the very popular, I'm going to say, house party promoters lived up the street from Andre. And we started back talking again. And so we went from talking again to dating, from dating to husband and wife at the age of 21, 22, up until death did us part. So that's just a little background. Now I will talk about, we're going to talk about illnesses and what put me here, or what kind of, why I can understand so much, so many things dealing with grief that many others cannot understand. That is not to say people do not care. I want to be very clear about that, because before I lost my husband, I could really kind of understand, but I wasn't all the way. I didn't understand like I understand now. Why did I say that? Because I have a sister, my baby sister, actually. It is three of us, three girls. And my baby sister, over 20 years ago, lost her husband. And it was very suddenly. He was making a speech, and he passed suddenly. My sister's story and my story are totally different. One day I'm going to have her on, just to share a little bit about what she experienced. But we were at two different phases with our, I guess, lives. And my sister had two little ones. One baby was under 1 year old. And so, it doesn't minimize her grief at all, because we loved Kevin really much, so much as like a brother. Our parents only had 3 daughters, no boys at all. So we will talk about that one day. But I'm moving along with my story to say this. My husband became ill, and he went into the hospital. At that time, the hospital would not allow you to have visitors, because we was in the pandemic, the COVID era, where you couldn't have visitors that come into the hospital. That was just worldwide for everybody, no matter what was going on with you, whether you was there, you was hospitalized, and maybe the doctors saw you getting better, or maybe they didn't see you getting better. People was in ICU and still couldn't have visitors. We all saw this play out on a national level on TV. Loved ones telling each other, I love you and goodbye over the telephone, and it was just so very sad. But that is the real of what was going on at that time. So my husband was in the hospital, and by us being very close, him not having the physical presence of myself and our children and whoever else would have visited him, it really bothered him, and it really placed him in a not so great state of mind not to be able to have that visitor to come in. Even though we talked on the phone all the time, we FaceTime all the time, it is not the same. It is not the same as actually having a physical visitor. Prior to Andre becoming ill and this will be another video, I became very ill like a couple of years before he did. Well, I stayed in the hospital almost a year and a half, you know, just in and out. One time, the longest stay I had in the hospital was 29 days, more than one time. I can imagine being in there and not having any company, nobody to come in to check on me. But this is what a lot of people had to deal with due to the pandemic. So Andre was in the hospital, unable to have visitors during his stay. He was needing to have rehabilitation services, or to be sent in for rehab before he came back home, because being in the bed so long, he had becoming weakened, and they thought that that would be the best thing for him. So he was transferred from the hospital to the rehabilitation center. The rehabilitation center had rules at that time where you can have visitors. I think it was 2 times a week, up to 4 hours a day. So, and they opened up that window because they understood that, you know what, care is still going on in the background inside of the hospitals. And when the people come to us, we're here to help them get back to as normal as they can possibly be. And with that being said, they need tennis shoes, they need socks, they need gym clothes, all of the things that they need for, you know, a rehabilitation, you know, to be able to get up in the morning and put your clothes on, even teach you how to dress yourself all back over again. But you needed those items, and those items was more than likely at home. So they opened up having visitors at the rehabilitation center. So Andre and I was able to see each other again once he moved to the rehabilitation center, because I had to take all the things that he needed. And so it was just a great visit for us the first time. It felt kind of weird at first, you know, but it was a great visit that brought on a lot of tears of joy, you know, just all kind of emotions was there. But I was very excited, and I think he was a little worried, but I was very excited, and I did everything I can, you know, within me to be perfect for him, because in his eyes, you know, he just always used to say, you know, like, there goes my baby. Oh, my baby is so smart. You know, he was just like my biggest cheerleader, you know, and I did everything I could do, you all, to prepare myself for this visit. You know, I wore something that he liked, and at the time my hair was a lot longer, and I had it how he liked it, you know, because I knew he had been depressed for being in the hospital for so long. So I was trying to make him happy, and I did all of that to get there, to walk I don't know how many miles to even get to his room, for him to tell me, hey, he was so glad to see me, and that I looked tired. Y'all, I just wanted to cry. I was like, oh no, he's kidding me, because when I pulled up, and I think what may have done that too is that because I was so excited about it, yet I was nervous at the same time, I did cry in the parking lot before I went in. So perhaps my eyes maybe was a little red, or perhaps it was the long walk I had to take to even get to him, because the buildings, it was like building A, B, C, and D, and I would have you to know that Andre was in building number D. So anyway, we had a good visit. He showed me a couple of exercises that he was doing, and it was just a great visit. So we was preparing, I think he was going to have like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of rehab, and then he would be coming home. So now I want to focus on what happened at home and beyond home. So Friday. That was a day that was going to be a discharge day from the rehab center for Andre. He will be coming home on Friday. My family and I, we was just so super excited. I couldn't throw a big gathering because, yet again, we still was, you know, dealing with COVID. So we made sure that we were here, and we made a big deal out of it. So the ambulance brought Andre home, and he was just so excited to be back, you know. I had not been feeling good, but I didn't think I didn't look like I wasn't feeling good, but I had not been feeling good. But I thought it was something that I could just get through, nerves and, just trying to keep him up when he wasn't feeling right, just a lot going on. But he came home on a Friday, and I stayed downstairs a very long time that night because, this is where he was at because of the steps. And so I didn't know how much they had done with the rehab, and we didn't want to chance it because by the time he got here and getting through Atlanta's traffic, it was night literally when he got here. So he was downstairs, and I knew that I wasn't feeling the best. But after it got so late, I went upstairs and I just kind of laid down for a couple of hours, really just trying to compose myself, let out some feelings that I didn't really want him to see, and then get a little rest. So the next day, Saturday, I have you know that I became very ill after I prepared breakfast and things like that, and so I had to go to the hospital. I went to the hospital. Due to their assessment of me and some lab evaluations, they told me they would need to keep me. I literally could have really just passed out. Any other time, all these months, that he wasn't here, why did I not get sick while he was away? I had been in the hospital when he was in the hospital, but I didn't mention it to him because I knew that it wasn't be a long time and I would be back at home, and it's nothing for him. I didn't want him worried about that type of thing. I just wanted him to focus on getting better. But I have I went and they kept me. And I made it really clear that, I understand the reasoning why, but my husband just got home on yesterday, and I really need to really, really, really bad let this be a in and out. Let's do what we need to do, and I'll be ready to go. And so I made that be clear. So I spoke to him over the phone. I told him that they were going to keep me, but I would be back. He was in good hands. And I made a bunch of promises to when I came home, what was going to, how, things was going to be. So Monday, I was dismissed from the hospital at my own doing. I had to sign a paper stating that I knew, I was aware that the doctor wanted to continue of care. However, I was refusing. And I would continue at home and follow up if need be with my physician, or come back if need be as well. So I signed that paper and I was out of there. I came home. He looks totally different. He did not look like the person I left on Friday. Now it's Monday and he's looking different. And I'm sure that came in from just being depressed because I was not here. We were very, very, very close, very close. Close, just real close. Okay, so then I told him, I said, well, I'm home and I'm here. I don't want you giving up. That's the way you look to me. I don't want you giving up. I'm here. I'm well. I'm healthy. I can take care of you, and we're in this together. Please don't ever forget that. I said, don't forget our love. One of our songs, Don't Forget Our Love by Ian Cole. So he smiled and he said, I would never give up. I would never get up. I was more worried about you than anything. I said, oh, don't worry about me. I'm good. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead on and give you a bath, change your clothes, and then get you something good to eat. What would you like to eat? He said, well, I don't want anything to eat right now. He said, my arm is just hurting really bad. I'm just having some pain. I said, oh, I can handle that too. I'm going to give you some pain medicine, and I'm just going to give you the pain medicine, and then I'm going to just sit right here and let you rest a little bit. I want you to rest, and I'm going to read your discharge summary and just see what, need to be done. He said, okay. I said, so don't worry about anything, just rest. And he said, all right. So I would, I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I didn't go out in another room. I sat right there. I was looking through his folder, reading all the information that was sent home with him since I was so swiftly, pulled out. So I would read and I would look up. I would read a little bit and I would just glance up a little bit. So I glanced up one while. He was just staring at the ceiling. And I called his name and he didn't say anything. So I got up at that point and I went over to him and I said, do you hear me talking to you? And he was like, yes, I hear you. I said, well, you didn't say anything. And then he said, oh, I was just thinking. So I said, okay. So I said, well, close your eyes so you can get some rest. Let the pill take effect and you get some rest. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. So I went back to my chair, sat down, picked up the paper again, and just started reading. And he did kind of like the same thing. So I went back to him. I know that he didn't want to go back in the hospital, and I know how they feel as well. Once you have been hospitalized so much, you just get worn. And it's not that he had been hospitalized so much. I had been hospitalized so much. And he was my caregiver, and he stayed every night when I was in there. So I know how that feels. So I got back up again, and I told him that he was scaring me a little bit. And if it happened again, I was going to have to call the ambulance. So, and he said, okay. And I told him that I loved him very much and I just only want the best for him, nothing but the best. And he told me, okay, he understood. So he wasn't as argumentative with me about me calling the ambulance, because it has been a time where he has been very, no, I don't need to go. So anyway, it came that time where I had to call the ambulance. They came out. They could not, he was unresponsive. They took some time to work on him. By that time, my mother-in-law was on the way to visit because she knew that I had been hospitalized and she hadn't seen her child, her youngest son, in a while. So she was on her way to visit along with Andre's brother. So while they were on their way, they saw the fire department and the ambulance like coming towards our direction. And my mother-in-law said that she said, I pray that they're not going to my son's house. And so when they entered into the subdivision and she saw all the action here, she just started crying. And it's because she was just really full. She was looking to come to visit. She was looking forward to coming to visit. And just thought that, when you get an all clear and you have a surgery, and the doctor and everything that's been, the pathologies, the samples, everything, the biopsy comes back good, everything's come back good. So when you get that type of news and it comes back good, it is a sign of a relief. You can't, you can just let go, you can just celebrate. Usually what one does is thank the Lord, thank God, thank God, for this great news, So now you're just in recovery mode. You're just really just recovering at this point. So this is where we thought we was at, recovery mode, okay? So the ambulance worked on him for a while, and then the paramedics, well, one of them, the guy paramedic, he was able to bring Andre, to a place where Andre could speak and, he was responsive at that time. And so I decided, I saw my mother-in-law come in the house. I kind of moved out the way because it was so many people around him. Anytime the paramedic is called, the fire department come as well. And in this case, it was the police officer too. So I knew that I had time with Andre. My mother-in-law had not seen him, so I wanted to respect her and move back and let her be able to see him, and that's what I did. So they told me they was going to transport him. I let them know that he just came home on Friday and, just kind of filled in the gap on a couple of things. And so they took him away. It took a long time before they actually pulled off, and so I became concerned at that point. But my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law went out to the ambulance, and I just stayed in the house and prayed. And so then they finally pulled off, and then they went back to the hospital. Once at the hospital, the doctor called to let me know, not to let me know anything. He called just for some background information, and I gave it to him. And then Andre wanted to speak to me to let me know that he don't even remember any of this. He don't remember everything that went on that Monday, all with being unresponsive. And before he got to that point, he didn't remember any of that. And I said, honey, I know you don't. I said, but this will be a short stay for you. I said, and this will be a short stay, and you'll be back home, and we'll be able to move forward with our lives. So that was on a Monday. Wednesday. Now it's Wednesday. I had a doctor's appointment, and I went to the doctor's appointment, but I called Andre earlier, and then I realized, oh, everything happened so fast. He did not have his cell phone on him this time. It's still at home. I remember that. So I called his nurse because I found out who the nurse was. They provided the telephone number because still, even at this time, no visitors was still, that rule was still in force. So I spoke with her. She told me that I asked her how he was today. She told me that he wasn't talkative, as much as when she had him before, like on a previous day. And she told me that he would only talk if, you talk to him. She did tell me that the doctors had been in to see him. She also told me that she needed to go back in the room. It'll be 15 to 20 minutes, and she will be going back, and that she would make sure that he gives me a call. I said, please do, because I would like to just hear his voice. I haven't spoken with him today. So in about 25 minutes, maybe I'll say, I saw the phone number of the hospital come in the car, and I answered by saying, hey, baby. And the person on the other line says, which was the doctor, said that this is Dr. Blank from the hospital. Is this Mrs. Benson? And I said, it is. And so he told me, he proceeded without asking me, what I'm doing or anything like that. I'm just driving, coming across a busy, very busy intersection, very busy. And he proceeded to tell me that Andre stopped breathing. And you all, I'm going to tell you something. That is one of the most, to this day, right now, I just still want to not only report him, but I want to talk to him to let him know that, just as a common courtesy to someone, just let people know, see what they're doing first before you just sling shots and real bad news on them and you don't know what they're doing. Because actually what I did was, and thanks to the Lord, I'm even here to be able to talk about this part. I let the wheel go. I let the wheel go. And then I grabbed it back. A horn blew and I grabbed it back. And then, I just literally I can remember noises coming from me that I didn't even know I could make. I don't know. It was just really, really sad when I just even think about it. And so I kind of gently, tried to just pull the car over to the side, and I just wept. I just couldn't stop. I just was saying everything. I know that I am a talker, but I didn't know I could talk like that. I was asking him questions, and I was answering the questions. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I just talked to the nurse. Are you sure it's Andre? Is he going to be all right? He got to be all right. You don't understand us. You don't understand what's going on. I went back and forth like that, you all. I promise you. I went back and forth until I didn't have literally another breath. I really thought I was going to have to call the ambulance for myself because I didn't have nothing else to give. So and he just let me scream and go through all I had to go through. Then he proceeded to say they had to put a tube in him and we will see. I told him, I said, I had my COVID shot. Please, can I come and see him? I believe if he see me, he will be okay. He said, let's get him through the night first. If everything goes good tonight, I will let you come tomorrow. I said, okay. But you all, after that call, I think it was maybe about 30 more minutes before I can even move. I know I called my mom, I called my children, and my mother was going to send someone to get me from where I was at, which was the CVS parking lot that's not too far from our home. But I told her I could get home. I could get home. And when I got here, she was at the door waiting on me. And when I got here, I was just, I can't even describe it. But I got into bed. Looked like the house got full very, very fast. But I just needed to be alone. and the doctors called like throughout the night, you know, just to let me bring me up on different things. But that morning, bright and early, he said tomorrow. He didn't say it had to be at 1 o'clock. I did understand the visitation hours for ICU is within a certain block, but in this case, I was just going for the very first time. So I went to the hospital, and this is the only time that I actually drove to the hospital that my kids was aware of, because I valet parked and I went to the desk. And some people think they just know everything. They just, you meet those every now and again. I told her that I was coming to visit my husband. He became very ill on yesterday. Well, ma'am, we're not having any visitors right now. Well, yeah, I do know that, but the doctor told me that I could come. She called and got it okay, and so I proceeded to walk to where he was at. It was a very long walk, but I cried all the way to I got to the floor that he was on. So to get in the unit, you had to wave your hand, to be able to get in. And the doors were open for you. So I waved my hand and I stopped. Time I got inside of the unit itself, and so I was trying to get myself together. That's what I was trying to do, get myself together. You all, I saw so many sick people. I know I had been in the hospital all that time, but I was a patient. I did not see sick people like I saw this particular time that Andre was in the hospital in ICU. He was in the ICU for 6 weeks. So, but it was some very sick people. I had been in ICU before, but I was a patient. Like I said, I wasn't up walking around or anything like that, so I didn't get to see what I saw this time. So I went to the desk to see what room he was in, and they told me. So I took a deep breath before I went in. And when I got in, I could see that he was on the vent, and I just said, "Oh, Andre." And that was the gist of it. I kissed him. I took a wet washcloth and just kind of wiped off his face, and I talked to him a whole lot, and I just told him how much I loved him, and we all love him, and we're going to get past this. And I just was saying all kind of things, things that I thought that things that was true, and things that I thought was going to be true. So that's what I did. And during this period, I started to pray. I prayed for him, and I prayed for us, and I prayed for everybody. I prayed for everybody, because Andre was he was in the last room on that hall. So I'm passing all of these other, because the glass at this particular hospital, the ICU rooms was like a patio glass door. So you could see, just if the curtain wasn't pulled, you could just look right in the room. And I just prayed for everybody, because everybody looked like I just wanted them to be covered, and I'm sure that their family members prayed for them, but I did too. And so I had my earbuds. I put it in his ear to let him listen to a few of our favorite songs, even his favorite song. I put on the Bible. I even let them read just a little bit to him. I didn't overdo it, but I just gave him a little bit. I just wanted him to be able to hear something. He was not brain dead. He had a brain injury, but he was not brain dead. So perhaps maybe about the third day, they discovered that he was breathing over the vent, so he was able to come off, so that was very encouraging news for us, and we were very excited about that, and he would watch me, like if I moved from side to side, from one side of the room to another side. He could watch me, but he yawned a whole lot. And I was like, oh, you sleepyhead, you're so sleepy. Why are you so sleepy today? You know, just talking and everything. And but when I came out, I would always be one way going in, but another way once I get behind there, because I have to have my head together. I need to have it together enough because I had information to be able to bring back to our children and his family, his mother and his brothers, you know. So when I got behind that door, the steel door I'm telling you about, I became powerful. That was God that gave me that. He gave me that strength. And God gave me that strength so I can ask questions, get answers, you know. And so I couldn't afford to go back there and not be have my head where I can be able to talk, because I know how that is sometimes. That it's even like when sometimes you may even have a doctor's appointment, just not even anything that serious like what I'm talking about right now, but I know it happened to me. I have gone to the doctor with something I wanted to ask a question, and then I get there, and then we may be talking about everything else, and the most important question I want to ask about, I forgot. Now I've already gone to the appointment, and I still don't have the question answered. So I knew that this was a big deal, and I know I had to be on top of things, and so that's what the Lord allowed me to be able to be like that. And when I left Andre and the doors closed, I went back to like I was before I went in there. I was very hurt. I couldn't understand why was this happening. I prayed, I begged God. I said, God, I've seen you do it before. In my case, Andre was called 2 times to say, come to the hospital. We don't know the outcome, but you need to come. And he was there. So, Lord, you brought me out of it. And God, I'm asking you, I am literally begging you to please heal Andre. And so, there was a point in time when doctors came, the medical team called a meeting and spoke with me. And I told them that, and I listened respectfully to what everybody had to say, but I also let them know that God was going to heal Andre. I'm a product of being healed, and he's going to heal Andre. And so after the meeting was over with, one of the doctors kind of waited around a little bit. She knew that I was like, it's like almost like, it was way worse than a panel interview. But what I am saying is that because you only could have one person, I was the one person physically sitting in front of probably about 9 people. And all of them had something to say about Andre. I didn't have a support. It's like I was outnumbered physically, but I wasn't in the meeting because I had my son on the speakerphone. So, but still, I just felt that unbalance. You know, it was just a physical thing to just see it like that. You know, it's just, I don't know. But she must felt what I was feeling, because when I stepped out the door from the meeting room, the doctor was there, and she just embraced me very much so. And she told me that I was very strong, but make sure that I'm taking care of myself first. She said, we have him. You need to take care of you. I've heard that so many times, y'all. You know, but one of the hardest things that I have ever gone through is one of them. You know, I have quite a few, but one of them is taking care of myself. One of them is taking care of myself. I don't know what taking care of myself for a long time looked like, because I'm so used to taking care of so many others. But the weeks continued to go by, and it was a time that they came to talk to me about palliative care or either hospice. I made it very clear that I was not interested in either one of them. And even if I was, you know, it wouldn't be in the hospital. It would have been at my house, our home, you know. But I mentioned it to Andre's doctor, and he told them to back off of me with that for now. That he really truly felt that Andre just literally need more time to get better. He had just got out the hospital, went through a real strenuous rehabilitation task, trying to get everything back and, be able, he was just worn, he was just tired, he was just tired. So they did back off as the doctor asked and as I asked. I didn't have to go and, they wasn't disrespectful or anything like that, but I happened to mention it to the doctor that they came to me and that I wasn't ready for that. So he also made sure they was aware of that. So because I was so hurt and I was had so many different emotions, my kids never allowed, they didn't want me to drive to visits. They always had someone to take me and someone always picked me up. Um, Probably about the fifth week, I believe it was. No, it wasn't. It was actually, yes, it was. It was the fifth week. It was storming here in the city. And I just wanted to see him so bad, but I didn't want to put anybody through going through the storm to try to go downtown and, come back. So, and I remember the doctors telling me to take care of myself. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take today off. And, but I really just didn't feel right with taking that day off. So I called my kids to see where they were at. And I got in my car and I did a sneak drive. So I went to the hospital and I went to see him and he was just sleeping. He would not wake up. No matter what I do, he would not wake up. And I was like, wow, I went through all this rain and everything and he's not even waking up, So the nurse that was in there said, yes, she said, he is a sleepyhead today. I hear you talking to him all the time about being a sleepyhead, but he is a sleepyhead today. And I said, and guess what? My kids will have a fit that they knew I was down here. I said, so I'm going to turn back and go home. And that's what I did. So coming down to our final time together, I never did a night visit. Never did a night visit. But this particular day, I don't know why it was on a Monday night, and I decided I wanted to do a night visit. So, and it was just strange. Everything was just different. I'm just used to for 6 weeks hearing the noise, hearing the officers outside their whistles as they direct the traffic. I'm just used to seeing the workers, scrubs everywhere. Then you had a medical building that's adjacent to the hospital. So you had people that still had doctor's appointments, lots of masses everywhere. Where at night, it wasn't like that. So I went to see him and I basically knew all the nurses that was caring for him. I knew the doctor team, and the ones at night, even though I didn't see them, I knew them by speaking with them on the phone because they made sure that I would get reports, both shifts, or if something changed, or if it's something they felt like I needed to know, they would call. But this particular night, the floor was different. The floor was different. When I waved my hand this time, it was different from the time I got back there, period. I didn't have to even get myself together. It was just different. So I went to see Andre, and he had a nurse I never met before. It was a male nurse, and the only thing I can remember from this visit is that he was short. He was giving Andre some medicines, and I was looking at the machines, and I knew that the numbers looked good to me. I was okay about that, but for some reason, he wanted to have this discussion with me about our bodies, and when our bodies get tired, and how they don't, they only can do so much, So it almost like it was a prep talk. It was something that had to do with prepping me, because that next day, well, let me go back. He was prepping me. He went on to proceed to tell me that the patient next door to Andre, which was a female, she passed, and the doctors had worked on her over 40 minutes trying to revive her, and they couldn't do that. He also told me that a guy on the front hall, the very hall that I came down, someone else had passed in that room. And he was just telling me about, sometimes the body is just becomes just so damaged. He was just preparing me, y'all. It's almost like it was an angel. Maybe he was one. I don't know. I just know that at the end of my visit, I looked everywhere for him, and I didn't see him anywhere. You know, I didn't see him nowhere. I walked around the whole circle and I didn't see him. Could have been gone on break, but I didn't see him. So the next morning, phone rang about 7:15, and because this nurse insists on talking to me about the body and the things that go on with the body, I knew about what this call was about. So the doctor went ahead and told me that Andre had stopped breathing again, and they were doing everything they could, you know, to work on him. And that's what I expected them to do. And I made that very clear. So I told her I would be on my way. But for some reason, I didn't hang up the phone. I didn't hang up the phone, and she didn't hang up the phone. And I'm telling my son, your father stopped breathing. We need to get to the hospital. So with that being said, we was getting dressed, you know, getting ready so we can go to the hospital. And I can hear a lot of, I didn't hear anybody talking, but I heard a lot of noise. So I don't know how far she was from where he was at, but the lines were still open. Then I had something to just really just come over me. And I asked her, I said, if I were to ask you to stop, would you stop? And she said, yes. That is the only way they can stop, if they would have permission from me. And I just thought about all he had been through. I thought about the first time when his heart stopped. I just thought about a lot of things, but in a very fast, it was just so fast, you know. So I asked her to stop, and she told me they would. But I said, but I'm still coming. And she said, okay. I said, and also let them know my son will come in. We both are coming. And she said, okay. So at that point, we did hang up. I hung up and she hung up. Okay, so she called me back and told me they stopped our resuscitation, but he was still breathing. That was encouragement for me. That I was so happy just for a second, because she called me back and said he was gone. And I just said, we're still coming. So I proceeded to continue to get dressed. I met my son at the steps. He was in a full suit. We got in the car. I was silent most of the way, but I had a lot of tears, you know. And we got there. We went into his room, and I just held his hand and told him how much I loved him. Told him how much I loved him, and we never thought it'd be like this for us. You know, we never thought it would be like this. But I just started singing Our Love, not even knowing my son was recording this, but I sung that song to my husband to let him know, you know what, we'll always be together because of our love. And so we stayed a while, and then we left and we came home, and that's when it really hit me. It really hit me, and I just had to I didn't have a choice. I had to just get into bed. I really did. So that was very hard, you all. And even just be patient with people who are grieving, because grief is very, I can't describe it. I know it's so many different definitions of what grief really is. Some people say grief is love. That is, it goes out. It's for someone, you know, it goes out, but it comes back void. It can't be returned, you know. It's just the heaviness of it, you know. It comes in waves, you know. And to even think about trying to get a funeral service together, you know, it just was a lot. And We got past that. He passed on a Tuesday. Um, because of COVID, he did lie and stay inside of our church because he was an armor bearer and he was a deacon, but we could not have a service there. We could not have a service there, so we had to have the service actually at the funeral at the cemetery because of COVID. But that right there was something made me feel so different. I mean, we have 3 children. I have my parents are still here today. Thank the Lord. I'm still here today. Thank the Lord. I have 2 grandchildren. Thank the Lord. But you know, during that time, I just felt like I just didn't want to. I had nothing to live for. I felt like I had nothing to live for because I had been intertwined in Andre so much. We have been together so much that I just can imagine not living without him. And that's why I think during the times when the phones we didn't disconnect, and I had this come over me, the Holy Spirit was speaking to me. Who was I doing all this for? Was I doing it for me? Because it was a time that I told Andre that he didn't have a good day. And I told Andre, if you're tired, I understand, baby. Close your eyes and go to God. But I promise you, 60 seconds had not went by. And I said, please don't. Don't do that. I said, we're going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine. Please don't go away. Please don't leave me. Don't go nowhere, you know. So that is what it is a lot, y'all. So anybody that's out there experiencing grief, I understand. I understand how you feel. I understand how you feel. I have more to say on this topic, but right now I just want to close it out with saying this on this particular video. I want to say this. If someone's going to tell you how long your grief should be, or maybe you don't need to talk to them. If someone wants to tell you how you should act, you're definitely not talking to the right person there. If someone tells you that you're talking about your loss just way too much, you're talking to the wrong people. Because if you love someone, it's just like in the Bible. We're told, you know, when other people are celebrating and joyful, we should be joyous with them. However, if they are hurt and sad and grieving, we ought to be that way as well. God knew that he was going to, wake up Lazarus. He knew that. But because Martha and Mary was so hurt about it, Jesus wept. So even he did the right thing. So sometimes the best advice that you can give in situations like this is sometimes just be quiet. Sometimes, you know, I think about right now, there was some of the best advice I received. I had my sister-in-law came over, and she didn't say anything because she knew how I felt. She gave me a hug, you all, so like a bear hug, and she just did not let me go, and she just listened to every word I had to say. And guess what? I felt some better. I felt some peace after I got it out and I received that hug from her. But a lot of people, I understand that you just don't know what to say with something like that, so delicate. I understand. I do, because I have not always understood it. So I do. But I can tell you this, 5 years is it's a good amount of time. And it's short, but it can be long too. And I started my beginning of going through this 5 years ago, so far as Andre is concerned and his passing. And now I felt like I was the only one. But there are many, you know, I won't say many necessarily, but some people have lost their loved ones since I have, their spouses since me. And now they understand what I was feeling like. They didn't completely understand it, and I don't fault them for that. They didn't completely understand it, but they understand now. I don't celebrate their loss. No, I don't, because that's not who I am. I try to help them with what I can, but they did not understand that then. Vonda, you need to do different things. You need to get out more. You need to, Andre won't want you to be like this, or, those type of things. But now that they're standing in it, now they can kind of understand how I was feeling. So, with that being said, I went to a grief counselor who became highly recommended. I must put this in here. And even she couldn't do anything with it. She told me that I was a joy to her. She told me that I made her day. I'm there for grief counseling. She told me this at the end of the visit. So I decided I was going to give her one more chance. And so I went back for another appointment. And she must have thought about what she didn't do, because she apologized and told me that she was perimenopausal, and that we was going to get down and we was going to unpeel some of what I was carrying. Yet again, I walked out the same way as I walked in. And yet again, she told me that I was a help to her. So if that's what it was supposed to be about, me being a help to her, and that's what God wanted to be about, that was fine. But I just didn't go to her anymore. And the doctor that highly recommended me to go to her, I told them about my experience as well. And they said they was going to stop referring out for grief counseling to her. She might have had all the credentials and everything she needed, but when it came to grief counseling, I don't believe that. Well, in my case, I just didn't see where she was effective in that area. I have actually walked in it, and I know, it's nothing but God that I have been able to help some people navigate through it, because my mother-in-law lost 3 sons in less than a year. So I actually have 2 sister-in-laws that lost their husbands as well. And we all went through it, going through it, came out of it, or we just help each other the best way we can. So, me ending this video, I just want to say, keep your head up. Whatever you do not forget God is for you. He's always for us. I'm not going to even lie. When I was really in it early on, I used to love to sing, and we would pray together, but I had got to the point that I wasn't praying because I couldn't pray. I couldn't sing gospel music. I was just different. I was just down in my own world, and God just separated me because I was in isolation. I isolated myself. I stopped answering the phone for people, and I just was changed, not in the best way, but God took where I was at and turned it around. It's making me all new again. And I never thought that I would be able to even talk about this, to be able to help so many people, but I have. They even would come, my sisters would, tell me that, because they're far more active on social media than I am, that, someone want to talk to me. Is it okay? Yes, it's okay. Because now we are joined together by a common loss, and so there's no make-up conversation when it comes to this. Either you in it and you got something to share with somebody, to hopefully help them, or you can just listen to them. And I choose to do that. And I used to write, at 13 years old, I had my first diary. And I would write in it and had a little key and a little lock, and I would write in it mostly about my 2 sisters. And then I would lock it and put it under my pillow, and I'm sure they would go in and read it and put it back. So I actually been journaling since I was 13 years old. And a doctor told me a couple of years ago, he wanted me to stop. And he wanted me to stop talking about and, writing down the things that made me sad. He didn't want me to do that. And so I stopped. And so as I did that, I started just saying, you know what, someone gave me a book on gratitude. So I kind of just did a reverse, because I promise you, for a long time, you all, Only thing I could think about was the last 6 months of Andre and our lives. That's it. I couldn't go past 6 months for nothing. And because I'm gonna tell you something, God gives us signs. Sometimes we don't want to admit it, but there was a separation before the physical separation came. There was definitely a separation before the physical separation came. I'm saying that because Andre told me one day, he said, Vonda, something is trying to break us up. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because sometimes when you're in the hospital, I'm home alone, and then when you come home, I'm in the hospital. And I was like, wow, okay. So I said, but I don't think that. So then I thought about it. My mother had retired early because my grandmother was ill. And my mother took her early out on her job, and in 6 months, my grandmother had passed. So when I really truly thought about it, I asked God, I said, God, please don't let this be a 6 month thing. Please don't let it be a 6 month thing with me and Andre. And that's exactly what it was. Because he had started kind of changing a little bit, not as talkative, but happy. Of course, he was happy, but he was different, he was different. So it was when I really think about it now, it was yeah, it was a separation before the physical separation. And I would listen to him talk to his friends sometime on the phone, and he'd be like, "We on deck," and I'd be like, when he get off the phone, I'd be like, "Don't be saying that. You ain't on no deck. You ain't on no deck," and we'd be playing and laughing and stuff like that. But sometimes we have to just really just listen to what God is telling us, and I always be open to what he says, but when we can hear through all the busyness and all the noise, and I know I can, and you can too. But I'm gonna leave on this video, you all, to let you know that I love all of you all so much. I hope that you all will continue to support me as I do what God has asked me to do, and that is share some things in my life that to help other people. I will be covering a series of things. It's not only about grief, we will be talking about just an array of things, and being born again, being made new through Jesus Christ. Some things that others may not talk about so much, because I know our church, it seems like it has changed. The churches have changed a lot, but there are some things that has not changed, and that is the word of the Lord. It has not changed, you all. And if you're not close to God, try to build an intimate relationship with him. Let's not continue to go to him when we need something or when we are in trouble. Let's go to him with gratitude, and let's go to him in thanksgiving, and sometimes go to him with asking for nothing, asking for nothing at all. Just saying, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. I repent, Holy Father. I repent, Jesus. Make me better, God. Let my light shine bright, God. I don't want to be lukewarm anymore. I want to be piping hot for you, Jesus. Let's just practice doing that. Let's practice praying like, if we're not already, like Daniel. He wasn't a one-day prayer. I think Daniel prayed about 3 or 4 times a day. And I know when they used to pray like that, it's just, hey, I'm gonna tell you something for myself. It's just good for my soul. Practice praying before you even get out the bed, you all, because the time that we're living in right now, it is always something waiting on you. So say your prayer before you even get out, and then you can go on your knees when you get out if you want to, because it just really helps set your day. Don't let distractions and the devices that we have now be our first to go to. To see who says something on social media or the phones or whatever. You can't hardly even get a minute to yourself and go to the restroom unless somebody is requiring something of you. So let's practice giving God our first. Go to be learning how to be and give our first fruits, the best of us in all areas that we have. Let's give it to God. And so I just think that in being obedient, that is where the blessing is, you know. And obedience is better than sacrifice. And, you know, that's all he asks us to do. But he makes it clear also is of all the things he talk about, love is the most important of them all. And so let's love each other and one another. With that being said, I'm going to let you go today, and I hope that you grab something from my story and be here with me in other stories to come, and know that I love you and I'm praying for you. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you. Remember to keep God first. Bye-bye.